afternoon, everyone. This is the Economic Development Innovation Committee meeting. We have one item on our agenda today. We are going to continue our discussion of the strategic plan review for arts and cultural resources, economic development, and innovation key focus areas. We had 3 individuals sign up for public comment, but they have not logged on to the meeting as of yet. If they do, we will break for public comment at the end of the staff presentation. But for now, I will turn it over to Mr. Green.
Mr. Melton, Mayor Baldwin, and members of council, good afternoon and welcome to the ED&I committee meeting today. As Mr. Melton mentioned, just one item, and that's the strategic plan. The 2 key focus areas, we're going to first discuss the arts and cultural resources area, and then we'll move to economic development and innovation. Let me remind you just a little history, how we got here. Reminder, our city strategic plan is a 3 to 5 year plan, sets the priorities, the strategic priorities for the city. It's your strategic plans, council's strategic plan. And we first discussed this with you back in February at your council retreat. We gave you an update on the plan at that time and received your input, ideas, suggestions. Staff took that back and did a very rough draft and brought it to you at your committee meeting in June. Great discussion at that committee meeting. I think we spent a couple of hours with you all providing more input. And so we've taken that plan back with your input and priorities. And for the past 2 months, cross-departmental teams have been working to put this latest draft together for you for your review today. Just like to emphasize, it is still a working draft. Goal today is to continue that discussion, get your input, suggestions, and ideas. But I am very proud of the staff teams that have been working to develop the draft for you today. And you're going to hear from several staff members throughout the presentations today. So at any time, if you have any questions, let us know. We're going to try to take a few breaks during the plan. Know it's a lot of information. We'll stop, just turn the cameras back on and get any comments or questions that you may have. One final reminder, from your priority areas, some of those items may have come out, say, in economic development, but as the teams reviewed the plan and looking at all the key focus areas, we may have moved that or recommending to move that to another area. A great example is economic development in the transit corridors. That is something that in talking with transportation and transit team, we actually moved that as part of our recommendation. So you won't see that in economic development, but it's handled through transportation and transit. So there are some unique circumstances like that we'll try to point along the way. And again, happy to answer any questions. So with that, Mr. Melton, I'd like to turn it over to Stephanie Olson. Stephanie is our strategic plan manager, and she's going to kick us off, and then we'll go through the presentations. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'll wait for the presentation to get pulled up and then get us started. Thank you. All right, as Jim mentioned, we're going to just briefly run through what the process has been so far. Then we're going to go through ACR and EDI. We will take a break between both of those key focus areas to get your thoughts and feedback. And then finally, we'll go over some final council feedback and next steps. So like Jim mentioned, we received feedback from you all at the council retreat as well as your June committee meeting, and staff has been working over the last couple of months to develop a working draft of arts and cultural resources as well as economic development and innovation. And today we'll go over that working draft and ask for any additional feedback that you may have. And then following this presentation, staff will take your feedback and further revise the language. Then we're going to also reach out to our Office of Equity and Inclusion to have them review the plan and ensure that we're being equitable and inclusive in our language. And then finally, staff will return in October with a final draft for your review and referral to the council as a whole. Just a quick reminder, the strategic plan has 6 key focus areas. Today you're going to hear about arts and cultural resources and economic development and innovation. When the strategic plan comes back to the council as a whole, you'll receive all of those in a package. And an objective that you'll see throughout the strategic plan is a strategic goal that indicates new results or conditions we would like to see. And then an initiative is an action statement that helps to outline strategies and actions that will help us achieve our objectives. So just wanted to start with that quick reminder before we dive into our working draft. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to a couple of core team members who will walk you through the language that was developed for arts and cultural resources.
Good afternoon, Council Member Melton, Chair Melton, Mayor, other members of Council on the committee. Derek Reamer, I'm with Emergency Management and Special Events, but I come to you today as a core team member for the Arts and Cultural Resources Key Focus Area, a very fun part of my job, and I'm very pleased to be here today. So I'm going to cover a couple of the changes we've made here based off of your feedback, and then I'll turn it over to Sarah Powers, who will go over the rest of it. The first thing we touched on here is just a slight change to the goal statement here. And really what we tried to do is just simply incorporate and highlight parks as a part of the goal statement for this. So we are now going to embrace Raleigh's diverse offerings of arts, parks, and cultural resources as iconic celebrations of our community that provide entertainment, community, and economic benefits. So not a huge change there, but really highlighting that emphasis of parks in our overall goal statement. As we move into Objective 1, and you can see here the areas in red are some of the new language that we've incorporated, and you can see where we've taken that from your comments earlier. So Initiative 1.1 is working with our partners to develop a comprehensive marketing strategy to leverage the community's arts, cultural, and innovation sectors to promote Raleigh locally, nationally, with a focus on showcasing our creative community. And we heard your feedback, and I think it's very important that before we do any type of marketing, whether locally or nationally, that we really try to focus and highlight our own creative community. And so we tried to capture that here in Initiative 1.1. As we look to Initiative 1.2, this is a new initiative. This is really focused on live music, including the downtown area, but we wanted to make sure that we covered this more broadly. So it reads, collaborating with our partners, continue efforts to ingrain music into the culture of Raleigh in both public and privately owned venues. And we think it's important to make sure that we're highlighting both public venues and privately owned venues, really to really ingrain that culture of music into the entire city. We felt it was important to not only highlight our own venues, but the privately owned ones as well. We also wanted to make sure that while a lot of this will occur in downtown, that we're inclusive to all of the city as a whole. That's an important part of that, and we hope to have captured that there with your feedback. And then the third and final objective for Objective 1 is 1.3, and this is trying to incorporate a couple of different areas as you see down there. We heard your feedback is really wanting to highlight the development of the public art plan. We really wanted to support an artists in residence program and desire to support the art throughout the city. Similar to how we mentioned putting music throughout the city, we want to make sure that art is reflected throughout the city. And so you can see how it reads, develop a public art plan to determine future directions for places voices and identify strategies to guide expansion, develop local artists through mentorship and artist in residence programs, and encourage a wide-ranging portfolio of projects. So there's a lot there, but we're confident that it kind of incorporates the feedback that you would previously provided, and we hope that it captures it there. Again, I'll be available for some comments here in a second, but I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Powers very quickly, and she will go over objectives 2 and 3.
Good afternoon. Let me know if you can hear me because Derek is about 15 feet taller than I am. So I'm going to talk about objective 2 and 3, which are some of the objective 2, you'll see some sort of changes and expansion of the language, starting with how we talk about recognizing Raleigh's rich and diverse history in objective 2. That overall goal now will expand just a little bit to make sure we're really capturing the feedback we heard from you, that there are opportunities to use art and culture to tell our stories, think about our legacy, and as well as start to bring in the history in areas that maybe it has not been told in a way that we all can agree is elevated. And there's lots of opportunity there, especially with initiative 2.1. We have quite a few wonderful plans for how we use our historic and cultural assets to broaden access to our collective history and stories. Those are sites that we work to develop as parks. They're also how we tell our stories, how we integrate the community's voices through all of our projects, through community engagement, through exhibits. There's quite a bit of work to be done to label our sites, to increase communication, but all with that goal of really making sure we tell everybody's story. Initiative 2.2, we're thinking a little more broadly. That initiative team has done a lot of pilot work in trying to forge those connections through showcasing what we can do when we put art and technology together. We want to make sure we continue business support, grow it, and we also heard a lot your great ideas about how we can expand those partnerships. The creative community is big and broad and open, and there's lots of interaction already into how can we further support it, and also that that connection, keeping those sort of similar creative minds, but maybe with different outcomes working together. We added a new initiative to this based on the feedback to preserve and highlight the culture of Southeast Raleigh, explore and implement opportunities to highlight the culture and history of Southeast Raleigh. That's our new initiative in 2.2. This is a whole new objective area. We only had 2 objectives in ACR. We had finished some earlier objectives in the plan, so adding a new one focused on how we use our parks was a priority for the team. The new objective language, and of course all this language is where we need your feedback. Are we capturing what you intended, and maybe even can we leverage what words we use to sort of bring in new ideas. So utilize parks, green spaces, and recreational facilities as community hubs, gathering spaces, and neighborhood resource centers to foster connection, creativity, and economic development. Obviously, we have great venues. We have great opportunities to build connections using those spaces. So how can we use what we have and what we're building for a better connected community? We also know there will be lots of opportunities to provide more resources to our community and as we come through COVID. Initiative 3.1, we moved down here. It was an initiative under the second objective, but coming under here as we have a parks objective now, especially it is a park, green space, and a recreational facility. And the collaboration is the sort of action word we wanted to highlight. So the only change to that is just making sure we are reporting on and making sure that collaboration with the community is a priority of the team working to build Dix Park. Initiative 3.2 is a slightly expanded goal that has been working for a while on pop-up studios, on how do we use the facilities we have to create new arts and cultural resources. So we want to expand it to include community partners. We've tested some great ideas. We think they can be used in a broader way, but also adding the term recreation. I'm in the Parks Cultural Resource, I'm in the Parks and Rec Department, and we often don't acknowledge that some of the community centers we use are recreational facilities. So that's just the foundation of how we could build on, how we enjoy our spaces as recreation, but also still with that goal of getting it out and across the city, and then representative of what people want. If they want to see their children's artwork displayed, how can we be really responsive utilizing the system we already have? Thank you. And I'm going to turn it back over to Stephanie and take notes.
Thank you. So we can pull the presentation down so you can see everyone's faces, and would welcome any feedback that you have about arts and cultural resources.
Okay. Councilmember Knight is having issues reconnecting. So he's back. Well, that was perfect timing. We're starting the discussion now. Does anybody have any feedback for staff on these revisions? Councilmember Branch.
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you all for the work in the draft. I think the only thing that I would like to see in item 1.2, when we talk about live music, the word diverse, ingrained diverse live music. For me, I think other than that, I'm fine. But if we can add that, because that's something I keep hearing throughout the community about diversity of music. And since we're working with public and private facilities, I think, how we partner and work on that is very key to make that possible. So just adding the word diverse, maybe right after the word ingrained, but somewhere within that point. That's all I have.
Mayor.
I just wanted to commend the staff for, I think, capturing the sentiment that we brought forward. I think it's really important to acknowledge not only historic, but cultural, and look for ways that we can honor our heritage, especially African American. And this does that. So acknowledging and then putting it in that statement and separating them gives them importance, weighted importance. So I think you did a very good job in capturing what we were trying to achieve. And my recommendation would be to approve this, to report it out to the full council for next meeting.
I second that.
Okay, I guess I made a motion, Jonathan.
Okay. Mayor Baldwin moved to incorporate the revisions and to report to full council. It was seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Branch. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Mr. Green, is that all you need on this portion of the presentation?
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate the committee's support. And since there are other strategic areas that are going to be going through committee, we don't know when this will go back to council yet. There may be some issues with the other areas. We would like to bring the full strategic plan at one time to council with all the areas rather than piecemealing, if that's okay.
Well, we might get there today.
Yeah, this is your second meeting already, right, Mayor?
That's right.
All right, we're on a roll. Good news.
Actually, it might not be until Thursday. Mayor, it may not be until Thursday.
All right. If there's nothing else on arts and cultural resources, Mr. Melton, if the committee desires, we can move to economic development and innovation.
Yes, please.
Great. So we'll pull back up the presentation, and core team members will be up to present to you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Melton, Mayor, and committee members. Veronica Creech. I lead your Office of Economic Development and Innovation. I love talking about economic development and innovation, and what I love about this field is it's a body of success where I can use my social work background, my public administration training, coupled with my own life experiences to help the city live into the vision of prosperity for all. And with that, the goal statement for the EDI pillar is to maintain and grow a diverse economy through partnerships and innovation to support large and small businesses and entrepreneurs while leveraging technology and providing equitable employment opportunities for all community members. We'll do that under 4 objectives, and I'm going to talk to you today about the first 2. And objective 1 is our staff's effort to capture council's vision in workforce development. So objective 1 is identify and enhance workforce development partnerships and efforts and actively serve as a conduit to residents, businesses, resource partners to attract, retain, and engage a talented workforce of various ages, skill sets, and backgrounds to support a diverse and growing economy. And with objective 1, we have 3.
Can I just ask a question? Can we get the objectives
Absolutely.
up before, because you're reading it, but we're not seeing it.
Okay, my apologies. I think we're back on track now with our advancement.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank you. And then that first initiative of 3 that supports objective 1 is promote and use the regional workforce skills analysis, results in discussions with industry, workforce development, and economic development partners to identify specific strategies and initiatives for each industry sector. Additionally, Initiative 1.2 would be to create strategies including public-private partnerships and efforts, to support, provide workforce development opportunities for adults of all ages, skill sets, and backgrounds throughout the community. And then Initiative 3, our third under Objective 1, is partner with organizations in the community to continue to enhance youth skills development opportunities with a focus on enhancing the city's Pathway Center. And then Objective 2 is your vision and our commitment to innovation. So for Objective 2, we aim to cultivate an innovative and entrepreneurial culture based on strategic goals. Initiative 2.1, and again, we capture this objective in 3 initiatives. Objective 2.1 is work with partners, including area universities, that encourage and implement creative projects that add jobs and investment in our community. Initiative 2.2 is to consider opportunities for the city to participate as a beta customer to support innovation that promotes business development. And then 2.3, review and assess the regional innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystems to inform the city's role in involvement in promoting innovation across the region. I turn it over to my colleague. Jim Green's going to take Objective 3. Put this and track this for him.
Can you hear me okay? I apologize. I think I had you muted.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. So, Veronica, thanks. Members of the committee, those were the first 2 objectives dealing with specific areas of workforce development and innovation. I'm going to talk a little about objective number 3 under ED&I, which deals more with business development. And again, as you can see, the objective here was changed, still dealing with business development, but was made what the committee felt was a more clear and concise and direct statement about the importance for the city to develop the strategies and tools that encourage and strengthen business development throughout the community. So that was one change that was made to the objective. For the initiatives under this objective, 3.1 deals specifically with development of what we've always called our toolkit. And Mayor, I know you will remember 5 years ago when we started the strategic plan and focused on the toolkit, we really needed to work on our tools. Since that time, we've developed an incentive policy, we've developed several different grants, but we know there's still more work to be done. So we felt it was important to keep this objective and continue to look at our tools that will help us promote business development throughout Raleigh. Next slide, please. For Initiative 3.2, that really gets at making it easier to do business in Raleigh. How can we reduce those barriers throughout the city for economic expansion, and how can we communicate those? This was something that we heard loud and clear from council in earlier discussions, and this gets at looking at our codes, our policies, our process, our development review process. How can we make it more efficient? How can we streamline these different processes to make it easier to do business in Raleigh? You'll see that small business here is called out. That was something that City Council prioritized as well, and the staff team felt it was important to incorporate that into this initiative. One thing that you will see in several of these initiatives is an emphasis on communications. Again, that's something that we've heard from council, whether it's our tools, our policies, a process. How can we more openly and effectively communicate with the business community and make sure they're aware of these tools and they understand our process, our different processes? On item 3.2, really no changes there from what you saw in June. This gets, again, at our partnerships, our P3s. How can we work with universities, nonprofits, and the private sector to assist small business, startups, and minority-owned businesses? Again, this was a priority that we heard from council. As the staff reviewed it, this was actually part of the second objective. We felt it should be moved and recommend it be included under 3.3 because we felt has more to do with that business development. One comment that I would say is that as staff works to implement council's strategic plan, there are items that can fall under several initiatives. An example here, item 3.1 focused on the toolkit, but it could be a tool that falls under 3.1, like a small business loan program, that also helps another initiative like 3.3. So while there is some crossover, we really thought it was important that Initiative 3.3 stand alone. Next slide, please. The last two initiatives in this area, first one, 3.4, again, no changes from when you saw it in June. Council seemed very supportive of this. This gets back at promoting and strengthening the city's MWB program, our program to contract for services and construction with minority business-owned firms. Council has talked a lot about this from a disparity study. There were questions at the last council meeting that staff's going to be doing presentation on, but we felt this was an important strategic initiative for the city. And again, one thing that you'll see is the importance of communicating our MWB program and letting small businesses, minority-owned businesses know about these opportunities to contract with the city. The final initiative, 3.5, is new and something, again, we heard from council, and that is to focus on recruitment of a corporate headquarters. Obviously, it's something that staff works on with our partners, the Chamber and Wake County in particular, along with the state. But we thought it was important to have a specific initiative to address council's priorities and to go back and revisit our strategies, our tools. How are we marketing the cities? How are we working in partnership? And how can we strengthen this effort to recruit and attract corporate headquarters? So with that, that completes objective 3, and I'll turn it over to Paul Callum, who will go over the final objective in the ED&I area.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman Melton, Mayor, and council members. This is Paul Callum. I'm one of the Assistant Transportation Directors here with the City of Raleigh. And as Jim alluded to, I'll be going over Objective 4 and the initiatives associated with that. So on Objective 4 here, some slight changes we made here, basically to maintain and develop amenities and infrastructure to support and encourage jobs and business development and expansion in all parts of the city that provide opportunity for us all. And based on some of the feedback from the council, we kind of looked at this as what are those city investments that are supporting those businesses throughout the city and being inclusive. 4.1 initiative, we made some changes here and to evaluate the downtown parking strategies to address the changing office, retail, and residential needs, including development of curbside management strategies to adequately support small businesses in downtown and throughout the city. And some of the feedback that we got from council, of course, now we're in this changing environment with COVID-19, but how can we be more flexible and nimble and be able to kind of pivot to new conditions that are kind of thrown at us? And also just, some examples of work that we're working on currently right now are just looking at basically how do we better utilize the on-street parking as far as with all the competing interests that we have out here now. And so again, we're seeing changes in telework, people working more from home. So we're looking at expansion to our residential permit program. So again, this is all kind of centered around parking and again, how we kind of see those evolutions changing over time. 4.2. This is probably one with just minor changes here. So looking at developing strategies to close the digital divide within our community by connecting underserved neighborhoods to affordable internet service through partnerships with the private sector and nonprofits. So again, some small changes here, but we want to continue based on the feedback here again from council. We want to continue to kind of broaden those partnerships and closing that gap on the digital divide again in our underserved communities. So again, that was the focus here on 4.2. 4.3 is partner with the business community to promote and collaborate on inclusive and equitable economic development to encourage strategic business investments to areas of the city where the need for that business exists. And that goes along to, this is actually an initiative that we moved from Objective 2, and we put it here under Objective 4. We just thought basically from the core team that better aligned here with what Objective 4 was trying to accomplish. And of course, you know, we want to look at some of these investments where services are needed, you know, such as, you know, grocery stores, child care facilities, job deserts, you know, outdoor recreation, parks, things of that nature. So again, trying to focus on those services that we need along those strategic investments here. 4.4 and 4.5 are actually two new objectives here. So 4.4, continue to keep the tourism ecosystem and the Raleigh Convention Center, the Red Hat Amphitheater, and the Duke Energy Center for Performing Arts modern, vibrant, and innovative to attract economic generating events to Raleigh. And some of the focus here is, you know, hey, we, like we say in many departments, we need to maintain our assets. So a focus here is around all of the exciting assets that we have in the downtown area. And then those things that touch those assets. So, you know, I kind of wrote down feedback from the group. Hey, it's all about the customer experience in our eyes. So a sense of place when people come to downtown Raleigh and visit these destinations here. So again, that was a new initiative that the team thought that we definitely needed to have eyes on going forward here. So as far as a recommendation. And then our last initiative here, 4.5, again, a new initiative, and this is review and update the city's priority areas for economic development, for equitable investment and job opportunities throughout the city, and develop strategies that promote these areas and encourage developers to invest in these areas. And again, some of the feedback is, hey, we need to promote our priority areas and then go back and consider evaluating and revamping the data as needed here. So again, that was some feedback that we got from the council. So that is the end of Objective 4.5. I'm going to turn it back over to Stephanie here.
Great, thank you. A couple of other things that I wanted to bring to your attention. So Jim mentioned that we had referred a couple of items to other areas of the strategic plan. One of those was considering the impacts of transit-oriented development on businesses, and so we referred that to transportation and transit, and that initiative reads, pursue opportunities and partnerships along high-priority transit corridors to advance community priorities, develop specific land use strategies, and support equitable economic development. And then the second item was to build the ecosystem and business support for the arts, and we incorporated that in arts and cultural resources through an initiative that you saw that was cultivate projects and partnerships that foster collaboration and business support between the creative community, arts and cultural organizations, and local technology companies. So with that, I'll ask for the presentation to be taken down and welcome any feedback.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have feedback? Mayor Baldwin, saw your hand first.
So a couple of areas. 3.2, when we talk about the city serving as a beta customer, we can't just pay lip service to that. If we are going to do that, we have to have a strategy for doing it. Anytime I've mentioned that, I've gotten pushback. So either we're in or we're not. So if we're going to be in, and this is going to be included as part of our strategy, I want to see some backup on how we're going to do that. That was the first thing. The second thing, I remain concerned when we talk about innovation and entrepreneurship that we do not have a front door into the city. We have Economic Development and Innovation Department, but there's not a front door externally or internally. And this is something I've been talking about now for 5 years. One of the things I do is serve on the Governor's Entrepreneurship Council. This was one of our big discussion points, not only within local jurisdictions, but within the state. There's really no entry point for entrepreneurs or innovators to bring forward creative ideas, whatnot. I would like for us to look at that and look at defining that so there's clarity. Right now, we say, well, everybody's in charge of innovation. Well, that means nobody is. So I think that that's a point of clarity we need to make. The third thing is parking strategies. We had an instance this week where one of our, and Jim, you know what I'm talking about, one of our businesses downtown received notice from McLaurin Parking, about here we have empty decks and they're talking about charging people more. We've got to be in partnership with our parking partners. So I'm just saying the optics on that are really bad. We have to pull it together and make sure our partners all share the same goals that we do. And finally, in section 4.3, I think we really need to also look at corner stores. That is a hot topic right now. A lot of communities are looking at that. When I used to live in New York, every neighborhood had a corner store. We call them delis or whatnot, but they were places where people could shop and get healthy food, whatnot. They existed in neighborhoods. And so putting some emphasis on corner stores and seeing best practices in that area, I think would be important to us. That's it.
Okay, I'm having some tech issues. My videos are frozen, so I cannot see people's faces or hands. So if Mayor Pro Tem Branch or Councilmember Knight.
Councilor Knight, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. A few questions. I love the corner store idea, and I think sort of looking at that comprehensively, if there's a way that we could try to incentivize developments of a certain size to have retail that provides food and drink. I don't know if we can get to where we require it, but if you're over certain size, of units that you're going to have a certain number of people in this development living here, that we incentivize where there's, again, going towards the walkable building style, I think would be great to think about that. So I appreciate that as well. Back to 4.2. I think, Paul, you were speaking on 4.2, I believe. Do y'all know, is there any part of the city that is without broadband or Wi-Fi options? Corey's shaking his head or nodding his head, so there are.
Yeah.
And Veronica's here to answer as well.
There are.
So, Council, this is Veronica again, Office of Economic Development and Innovation. Most recently, in 2019, a report was released that 97% of Raleigh is covered with broadband or internet connectivity. Covered and accessible or affordable are three different measures. So you could live somewhere and have the opportunity to call a local provider if you can afford it and have internet service turn on at your home. And yet there are still a percent of our community that does not have the infrastructure. So rural, as you know, a lot of our rural communities, the infrastructure is what's missing. In our urban centers, we have a higher number of people not connected, and it's more of a matter of affordability.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie. It seemed to me that we need to create something, some sort of program to ensure that no longer exists. I mean, that's, to me, that's unacceptable. I don't know what exactly it would look like, but that goes to everything we're going through now and beyond in terms of education, et cetera. Everybody needs to have not only access but to have it. So if there's some sort of program that we can look into, I know that there's funding or money that would have to be involved in that, and I think that's essential, especially with what pandemic situation we're under now. I mean, Mayor, I'd be interested in looking as part of any of the emergency funds that we've already set up, because I just think that, and I know this couldn't happen overnight, but we may be in this situation for a long time, and that's just one of the reasons that everybody should have broadband and internet options.
We should be talking to our partners at the county as well.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. And then, thank you for that, Veronica. I believe it was 4.3, getting towards the situations we've had lately with our businesses in terms of external forces causing them to close. And if there is some sort of way that the city can have a response team, to partner with our chamber, partner with, the different, the downtown Raleigh organization, et cetera, to have some sort of emergency response team to where we are ready, in theory, to respond to those situations, because they're going to, those things are going to continue to happen. But anyway, something to think about that. So we are immediately on it. We're set up to be on it, and we pull a team together with the partners or the colleagues, collaborators to work on this. So anyway, a thought on that. I think it would be a good idea. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Branch.
Thank you. Definitely, Mayor, I agree with the corner store approach, but I also think in incentivizing them, we need to look at a way to ensure that they supply healthy products. I know there's some neighborhoods that will fight corner stores because some of them have a history of selling products that have been detrimental to the community.
That's right.
So we need to make sure that anything we incentivize, it uplifts the community and makes it stronger. As far as the internet piece,
perhaps how we could do that is through definition.
Yeah, I agree. As far as the internet piece, I agree. It is about access, but also affordability. I think there are some other states and cities that have developed some type of programs to help citizens. I was watching the news just the other day, and there was actually some young people who are going around helping to install internet in different locations. I think the ideas are out there. We need to find partners in the community to work with it and possibly, assist in moving things forward. I believe at the right time, with the right conversation and motivation, we can get some of our, hopefully, telecom companies motivated to assist in this area. And lastly, everything we talk about comes down to dollars and cents. And we talk about jobs and job training, which is needed. But also, we need to talk about capital for businesses. We develop our programs, and a lot of times our programs are grants, or they will not cover the entire cost. So when we look at partners, it's time that we reach out to our banking industry and figure out what they can do to help. But also, when we talk about our communities and neighborhoods and developing, take time and drive around the city. Certain areas you can drive less than 2 miles and you pass 5 different banking industries. In other parts of the city, you have to go 10 miles in a circle and you might only see one. So what can we do to push and showcase our city so that we can get more capital access to our community, so that also they learn, and maybe our piece may be just training and helping people understand this is how you receive capital. This is what banks are looking for. And maybe sometimes it's us giving a letter for that business owner or that resident that's trying to refurbish their home, saying, hey, you know, this is a letter from the city. They're guaranteed this amount of money towards my overall project. Can you help me move forward and leverage? Because a lot of times banks want our letter, and sometimes we want the bank's letter, and everyone's waiting for everyone's letter and nothing happens. So definitely when we look at 4.3 and we talk about daycare and food deserts, you know, we have a access to capital desert as well in our city. I just came up with that, so I might go pin that.
I just have one thing as well. And I'm not sure that this is rolled up in the 4.5 initiative, but the issue of food deserts and corner stores, I think, is really important. I think one thing that is a big barrier in Raleigh and similar situated cities from becoming less car dependent and getting folks closer to the resources they need are the locations of those resources. And you go to places, I'll use New York, for example, because my fiance primarily lives there. You can go down to the corner and get dinner or milk or groceries. And I think that that would be helpful for us to be looking at. And not only is there an incentivizing piece to it, but I think there's a zoning piece as well. So I want to make sure that we're looking at our code as well in this initiative to make sure that we're providing those opportunities in more residential districts, because right now I don't think we do. And I think that that would be an unfortunate artificial barrier to be putting up to prevent someone from getting access to goods and resources. And that's all I have. Does anybody have any additional feedback? Mr. Green?
I just wanted to thank the committee. This was excellent feedback, and I just wanted to respond on a couple things. Mayor, to your comment on beta site. Council will eventually approve the strategic plan, and then staff is accountable to you for implementing that plan. So if it is called out in the plan, whether it's beta or whatever the initiative is, I assure you that staff is going to be focused on implementing that plan and communicating and being transparent in where we are. So, and I think you all know we put a cross-departmental staff team together on each initiative to bring in ideas and suggestions from different folks. So we're committed to making sure we work hard to successfully implement and make progress on the strategic plan. The corner store and Mr. Branch, the banks and some of the other businesses that you mentioned, absolutely, there are some areas of town that need some business support, and that's why that initiative was created. We've heard that from council in previous discussions. And the corner store, corner restaurant, banks, we will continue to look at those areas and some of the other areas that have been mentioned, grocery stores or whatever it may be, to make sure that we're getting services and retail throughout the city. The last comment I was going to make was on Mr. Melton, your final comment on looking at the code. And yes, again, while this may reside in the economic development area, that 4.5, it is important for us to look at our code and zoning requirements. And does that make it difficult or prevent some of those services and retails from opening up in the neighborhood? So that's all part of it as well. So I just wanted to thank you all. This was excellent feedback for us and exactly what we needed to hear. We can go back and tweak these items some, or if you're comfortable in moving it forward. We can still work on this and then present it to the full council, however you would like to handle it. I wanted to mention one other, I'm sorry. We have the item in there that I mentioned on our toolkit, and some of these items that were mentioned, I think there are tools that can be developed that will help us move forward on implementing some of these council's priorities. So it may not be singled out as a corner store or neighborhood restaurant, but we're hearing those are important things, and I think they can be covered under some of the current initiatives. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
What we did, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
What we did this morning in Vibrant, Safe, and Healthy Community Committee is we provided feedback staff, but asked that they bring, that we move it out of committee and bring it before council, incorporating some of the changes that we suggested. And we asked that this not necessarily be done for the September 1st meeting, rather some meeting in September, and then make sure that members of the committee see the changes before it's brought to the council. So if people are amenable to that, I would make a motion to report this out, asking staff to take the action we suggested today to address the policy issues that we have brought up.
Okay, there's a motion by Mayor Baldwin, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Branch. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, Mr. Green, do you have what you need?
Yes, thank you very much. Again, I thought that was great discussion and input from the committee. What we'll do, if the committee's okay, we'll go back and work on this some more, and we can address these points in a memo to the committee and share it with all of council to see if you have any questions or feedback. But I want to make sure we're transparent and we're addressing your concerns. If that's okay, we'll proceed with that. Mr. Melton, I also wanted to ask about the next two committee meetings. Since the committee's comfortable with the strategic plan, there were two other items in the committee, and one was to focus on our local economic development partnerships. We've said all along that economic development is a team sport, and we're fortunate to have great partners from our alliances to the chamber and others. And so Veronica works closely with those partners and has weekly meetings. And the thought was to be able to bring those groups to you, talk a little about what they do, what their goals are, talk about how we partner with them. And ideally, we wanted to do this in a face-to-face meeting, but since we're not going to have any more this year, if the committee's comfortable doing it virtually, I would recommend that. The second item on the agenda was the regional economic development approach. And this, again, includes the chamber, but also the state and some of our other partners, and gets into more the recruitment and some of the larger industry that we go after. So those two items, if the committee is comfortable scheduling those for September and October, we're happy to work on staff with our partners to make those meetings happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate because we had wanted to do it in person and more of a roundtable, less of formal presentation, more of a collaboration and discussion, but we're going to adapt to the times that we are living in. So I think it's fine. Let's move forward virtually. My preference would be to have the local meeting first in September, and that gives us a little more time to coordinate with our regional and statewide partners for October. Is everybody else good with that? Mayor? Okay. And if we could work, Mr. Green, however you think the format may work better, but as interactive and collaborative as we can make it and less structured as a presentation. I think that may be more helpful.
Yeah, we will work on that with Veronica and our partners and see how we can make it more interactive. It is difficult on a virtual call, but we'll do our best.
Okay. Any other business?
Jonathan, I think the motion, you may want to announce it for the clerk that it was unanimous, just for the record.
Sorry, yes. So Mayor Baldwin moved to adopt these proposed revisions and then to have staff bring the final presentation back to the full council. And it was seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Branch and approved unanimously. Anything else? Okay, we will see you all at our regular council meeting on Tuesday, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.